What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the D League podcast. This podcast is all about personal development. If you're the type of person that wants to grow and go from point A, where you are, to point B, where you want to go, this podcast is for you.
All right, guys. So, in this series that I'm starting, it's going to be all about starting from where you are and acknowledging where you are. So, when I started personal development myself, my first time hiring a coach, my first time getting started in business, my first time, selling my first home, I was an unconscious competent. I was doing things that I heard was right, but I didn't necessarily have a rhyme or reason to do the things that I was actually supposed to be doing. So, when I started my business, when I hired my first coach, anything that I did, I never knew why I was actually doing those things. I just did them just because I figured that they were the right things to do. If you have not read this book, Simon Sinek, Start With Why, this is a book that I read a few years ago for the first time, and I've put it back in rotation on why I should necessarily just go back to it, just reference it in different parts of the year, and I will go back and read it again and take notes on it. So in this book, I want to read you just this quick portion of it that should provoke your rationale and why you should do what I'm doing, that this book talks about. So it says, our behavior is affected by our assumptions or our perceived truths. We make decisions based on what we think we know. So, a really quick story. When I first started in real estate, those of you that don't know my story and how I started in real estate, I started building my business through open houses, door knocking, and cold calling. I built my business the hardest way possible to start, all manual labor and just grit and will. And when I said I was an unconscious competent, it was because I was doing a lot of the right things, but I did not have a strategy or a purpose to do it. In this line where it says, we make decisions based on what we think we know. So I thought that I was doing the right thing. I thought people said do open houses. So I said, I'm going to do an open house every single day. Make cold calls. I'm going to call homes that were listed, they expired. I'm just going to do that. But without a strategy or a plan, I was basically running really fast, the wrong direction. And I thought that it was the right direction, but I never took a second and asked the one simple question, why? Why am I even doing this? Why choose one form of prospecting over another one? And as I started to get deeper into the business and I realized that I was spinning my wheels, doing the wrong thing, doing the right things at the wrong times and the wrong way, I started to understand that my ability to build a solid real estate book of business was predicated on my strategy. So outside of real estate, you may be a person that just wants to get better at a particular field, be a better husband, be a better wife, a better parent, and you don't know how to do it, but someone has told you these things contribute to a better relationship. These things contribute to being a better parent, but you don't really know why. I would encourage you to not just write it down, but there's something special that happens when we talk to ourselves. I talk to myself a lot, mostly out loud, because sometimes, especially when you get upset or you're sad or you're angry, when you're able to zoom out, ask yourself a question or say something out loud, oftentimes it may sound ridiculous if you say it out loud. When you're angry and you're about to say something that you don't mean, just saying it out loud, not to the person, but just amongst yourself, you often realize that just taking a second to think and process an issue audibly out loud, it's not as bad as it seems. And sometimes it doesn't even require you to communicate it to the other person if another person is involved. So another great example of that would be, I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better dad. And there are times when my 3-year-old, she tests me, she pushed my buttons. And a lot of the times I am talking to her as if she understands that I had a stressful day, that she understands that I'm, trying to be the best husband, the best father, and run a business and improve my golf game and all this other stuff. Like, she understands what any of that even means. So how foolish or ridiculous of me to respond in a way as if I'm talking to an adult when I'm really only talking to a 3-year-old. So with this approach, it allows me to meet my daughter where she is and then also humble myself and relax sometimes to think like, hey, I'm talking to a 3-year-old, not an adult. And the frustration that I feel is not direct. It should not be directed towards her. It should be minimized. And why I feel the way that I feel should be addressed, not necessarily what the situation is and who I'm talking to. And to continue on this thought, another piece from the book that I wrote down was Simon referenced this point. He said it's worth repeating. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So while we're on the topic of parenting, my daughter, I could tell her to eat broccoli eat your vegetables. Make sure you consume real foods. And in her mind, she would rather have a cookie because she's 3 years old. She would rather have a treat. And it's not because that the treat is necessarily a bad thing to have, or broccoli's the best thing to have, or whatever we're trying to convince her to have, but why her rationale and her reasoning why she would rather have a cookie is more important than my rationale and why I think she should have a vegetable or eat real food. So people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. My reasoning has to exceed her reasoning. And if you're in sales, why someone should work with you, why should they buy your product, why should they adapt to your services opposed to using what they're used to using, your reasoning as to why is more important than the what. And I'll leave you guys with this. The number one thing that I think I pulled from that excerpt about our behavior is affected by our assumptions or what we perceive or our perceived truths. There are so many things that we have been told that are the right thing. There are so many influencers and coaches and all this noise, all this stuff that's on the internet today that persuades and directs and guides our decisions, but we never take the time to really ask why. So I would encourage you to leave this podcast today and start asking why more often out loud to get to your own synopsis. Like, you dissect a situation or a circumstance. And I want to give you my top reasons or questions of why. So number one would be, why am I feeling the way that I feel? When you zoom out and you really start to see what contributes to you feeling the way that you feel, now your attention is off the thing that is making you feel the way, and you start attacking what's contributing to the main factors that contribute to why you're feeling the way that you feel. Why do I believe what I believe? Who said that that was true? Is this an opinion or is it a fact? An opinion does not dictate how things are for every single person. Start asking yourself why more often to get to the answers that'll help change your life. If this episode has been helpful, I would encourage you to like and subscribe for my people on YouTube and drop a review. For my people that are listening to audio, 7 Minutes with Sam is all it is micro bites to help you start your day, get warmed up on the treadmill, commute from place to place. But that one thought, that one question of, maybe I should ask why. Why don't I ask why more often? Those small instances that could provoke you to think differently, walk differently, act differently, to change your life is what the purpose of this podcast is for. So if this has been helpful, share it with somebody, and I will see you guys on the next episode of 7 Minutes with Sam.